So, Mel, this is a bit of a silly question, but it is something that I always wonder about, and I'm not even sure if I believe in ghosts. But do you ever get asked to research ghost stories? Because they're such a kind of classic haunted house thing. It's got to tie into house history in some way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is a strange one. And yes, it has happened. There I've actually been asked in the past when I was with the estate agent with Chesterton's, there were a few chances where they were like, oh, there's a story, it could be haunted. But then in the end I didn't get to research it. So I was always a bit disappointed. But there was one in particular a couple of years ago, private client, lovely house, again in Gloucestershire, it just happens. But they themselves, the current owners, had lived there for 25 years. But they themselves told me a story where they were sitting in their front room, watching television one night, and they saw the figure of a woman walk through from their kitchen through to where they were sitting, and then go down some steps which were actually no longer there because it was a previous form, and go down through the door to the cellar, which, as I say, wasn't there anymore. They blocked that off in later changes to the house. So of course these owners were sitting there dumbstruck, going, oh my gosh. And then there were more stories where they would speak to their daughter, and their daughter would say, well, the nice lady upstairs said something, or I saw the nice lady upstairs. And they're like, there's no lady upstairs. Who are you talking about? And so there were all these stories, and even they had visitors tell that, oh, they saw a figure of a woman. Is there someone else staying in the house? So all these things. So they were like, okay, this is something. They actually had a medium come to the house, and I'm not too sure what they do, but somehow she did something in the house. But alongside that, this medium person came up with the name of Lily. And there was, at this point, I hadn't been brought in. This was years before I had been asked to research the house. But obviously, when they commissioned me, they told me these stories. So, and I'm open-minded. Some people do and don't believe in ghosts, and the ins and outs of it, I'm not too sure, but there we are. So when I was researching, it was always they basically said, we want the history of the house, but by the way, we've had this experience with a ghostly figure in the house. And as it happens, when I was researching, I did find a family who'd lived there. They were a large farming family that lived there for about 20 years in the sort of late 1870s to 1890s. And I did find a Lily. So it was a bit like, oh my gosh. And the period was right in terms of what they felt the historic dress looked like. And then I did a bit more research. And it turns out she got married. She became Mrs. Brown. She ended up moving to Gloucester, the centre of Gloucester, had 2 children, seemingly lived happily ever after. I mean, I didn't do a full history of her story, but I did sort of follow through and find out more of who she was. So it's a bit of a mystery. That the owners were in raptures that I'd found Lily. They were just over the moon. They were so excited. Why she was sort of haunting the house. I mean, she seemingly wasn't the sort of bad ghost, if you can put it
Just
in
a
those terms.
presence.
Yeah. So why she, perhaps because this was her family home, it's where she'd grown up. So why she had felt to appear in her family home, we didn't get to the bottom of that story. But the fact that I found the name and that it fitted with the sort of historic period, the owners were just so excited. So they were over the moon. So some people might not feel the same way, but the fact that I actually found her was pretty cool. We were quite excited.
It's extremely cool. It's extremely cool. I mean, I say I don't know that I believe in ghosts, but I mean, I don't know that I definitely more believe in them than I don't believe in them. I don't know. I don't want to rule something out.
Well, that's why I say I'm open-minded. I don't know why or the ins and outs of it, but the number of people that have mentioned sort of ghostly presence in a house, there's obviously something. What? Who knows? But there's, so it's At least I was able to give them some kind of closure almost about telling them who it was. So that was good.